I was just thinking about how since the 1960s, there's been this kind of new category that people put themselves in on censuses, where they're asked what their religious affiliation, and they'll say spiritual but not religious. Um, there was a time when that phrase would not make any sense to anyone. Spirituality was inherently a function of religion. So, in a sense, I think religion was a collectivization of spirituality. It was spirituality experienced in a communal context. Um, and I think, um, particularly since the 1960s, when people decided, that looking at this sort of mythic, literal level of interpretation of religion, and the kind of social conservatism that they saw associated with it. A lot of them kind of rejected it, but still had a kind of calling towards a sense of transcendence. They had a need for the divine in their life, but they felt like organized religion inhibited it. And I think that's a valid concern. But obviously, for me, I've actually chosen to align myself with an organized religion, and not only an organized religion, but the dominant organized religion within my culture. I call myself a Christian, even though I have a more progressive, philosophical, mystical interpretation of it than maybe the average person who calls himself that. So there's so in a sense, I kind of feel compelled to defend religion. Um, I with the people who call themselves spiritual but not religious, I don't have to defend to them the sense of divine which they experience too. I don't care to try to defend that against atheists, because it's like either you experience it or you don't. But for them, these people they have a craving for transcendence and to go beyond the ego, beyond the confines of the worlds that they find themselves thrown into. But they feel like the organized religion of their upbringing confines them from that, and I can offer only sympathy for that. I can well understand the the how this sort of mythic, literal level of religion can feel like that, but I also know that there's, within every major religion, there's always a more transcendent level of understanding. There's always a more mystical truth behind that exoteric level. And I was just thinking about the Baha'i faith recently, which I love. The Baha'is. They're a faith that kind of grew out of Islam, that basically they believe in the oneness of all religions, that each religion was kind of a progressive revelation of God's plan, and that all faiths, all races, all this stuff, we're all one, and all the kind of feel good stuff like that. Um, but I don't count myself as a Baha'i, despite all that, because I feel it's more like each faith needs that kind of spirit that that lives that is behind the Baha'i faith, but needs to maintain its own identity, maintain a sort of agency in communion. Um, I feel like we're not, the world as a whole isn't going to all just meld into one faith anytime soon. I think Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism, these faiths will all have their future, largely as a kind of each is a kind of language. Each of them is a sort of cultural identity that you bear, and each has its own set of symbols, its own set of rituals and things that define it. But you can have very similar beliefs within each faith. You can have a Christian mystic and like a Hindu mystic agreeing on a lot of stuff, and I do sometimes cite ideas from Buddhism or Hinduism or Taoism or other things, which enhance my own understanding, my own faith. But I think that the sort of the whole spiritual but not religious idea, in a sense, I think it's kind of an outgrowth of the sort of individualism of our culture, and it's missing the sense of what Buddhists call sangha, the community, the we space. And so I think when people who identify as spiritual but not religious, I understand their desire not to affiliate themselves with any religion, but at the same time I feel like there needs to be that you need a collective interior, the lower left quadrant in Spiral Dynamics, the we space. That's an important part of spirituality that religion helps fulfill. And so if you're going to abandon traditional religions, you got to kind of come together and form your own religions to fulfill that level of spirituality. So I guess that's it for now. Peace.